So today we are starting with time value of money and financial appraisal. How time value of money is one of the most important part when we, see a project, whether we should choose a project or not. How time value of money plays a very crucial part in this scenario, right? So the lifespan of a project can have a huge impact on the valuation associated with it. So what is the time duration of the project? It is directly related with the risk associated with the project, right? So the larger the time span of the project, greater the risk. So the same project may be feasible in short run but not attractive enough for long run, because in short run you will be able to have more guarantee whether the project will work or not, but in long run there will be greater risk, right? And one of the factor of which really affects our decision when we go for a long term project is time, because with time things change, inflation rate change, interest rate change. So all these factors actually affect your decision when you choose a project, right? So the question arises about evaluation of feasibility of such projects which last so long into future. The present value concept comes in handy wherein the projects are not just evaluated for their feasibility but also ranked so as to guide the promoters in making the right choices. So here they are saying that when actually we are working on a project, we do not have only one project in hand. We have multiple projects, we have multiple options in front of us, and out of all those options we have to pick one right option which will give you maximum return in minimum risk. So the criteria when you pick a project is maximum return with minimum risk. So we call these projects mutually exclusive projects. So mutually exclusive projects are those projects where we choose one project and sacrifice the other one. So all the projects cannot be chosen because of limited cash flow available with the company. So they will choose one. So it means acceptance of one project leads to rejection of another. So the projects where one project is accepted and the others are rejected are called mutually exclusive projects. It means at one go you can pick only one because of probably lack of resources, lack of manpower and many other things, right? But there may be companies who do rationing. They can pick 10 projects at a time if 10 are good projects, but there may be companies who cannot pick all the 10 projects because they have limited resources, they have their own drawbacks, they have their own limitations, right? So these projects are called mutually exclusive projects. So here time dimensions is one of the very crucial part of the project, that how time uh, plays a very important role when you pick a project. So we will understand the role of time value of money with the help of few techniques. So first of all, before starting the topic, let us first understand that what is time value of money, right? Time value of money says that the value of money is different at different period of time, right? For example, 100 rupees earned today and 100 rupees earned after a year will not have same worth, right? So anybody, if I'll ask anyone that would you like to have 100 rupee today or I can give you after 1 year, so anybody would say that give me money today. It means the money which you get today has more worth than the money you receive after a year. Why worth of money today is greater than the money worth of money after a year? Because if you receive 100 rupees today, you will invest it somewhere and you may earn something out of it, right? That's why time value of money says that worth of money today is worth more than money receiving day after tomorrow, right? So when we talk about different projects and we say that this project is going to give you 5% return, 10% return, 30% return after a year, I need to see whether that 30% return is going to be worth it or not, right? And I compare that 30% with the inflation rate at that time. So this is called time value of money. I need to see whether the 30% which I'll earn after 1 year, 2 year, 3 year will be worth the risk I'm taking or not, right? So now we will use the concept of time value of money to understand which project we should use, which project we should pick out of 10 projects if I have, and that we will understand with the help of few examples. So first of all, why present is preferred over future? Why we want to have money today rather than, day after tomorrow or maybe after years? So first is risk and uncertainty. Obviously, because there is a lot of risk. If I say if I borrow 1 lakh rupees from you today, and I'll say maybe I can give you after a month, or I will give you after 1 year, what you prefer? You will say give me after 1 month, because after 1 year, whether I will be in a position to give you money or not, or anything may happen, or the worth of money will also reduce after 1 year. Whatever you can buy today from 1 lakh rupees, after 1 year you may not be able to buy that thing after 1 year in 1 lakh rupees. So that's why, because of risk and uncertainty, anything can happen over a period of time. That's why money is preferred today rather than a year, right? Next is technology upgradation, because if we talk about certain projects, technology projects, so there technology changes every year. So it also it is good that technology upgrade very fast, we get new technology, but again it is risk also, because it do not sustain for a very long period. Customer preferences change, and that is how the risk of the project will also increase. Then future expectations. So pessimistic expectations about the future induces consumer to enjoy their present rather than save for future use and production. On the other hand, secure and certain future takes away the incentive for sacrificing of present consumption. So why we invest somewhere? We invest somewhere so that we sacrifice our present consumption, we sacrifice our present desires, so that in future I will have good amount, right? So in such cases, consumers have to be motivated to postpone their present consumption. So it is very important that why I must have some motivation, that why I must sacrifice my desire today. If somebody says you do not buy it today, buy after a year, why should I sacrifice my desire? Because I will get a very good return, right? That's why I will only sacrifice my present need. Otherwise I will go with the present need. So future expectation is the cause because of which money is required today, not tomorrow, right? So now let us understand what are the different methods through which you can pick a project, right? So investment decision techniques can be divided into two parts: non-discounting techniques and discounting techniques. So under non-discounting techniques, we have two methods: payback period and accounting rate of return, right? And under discounting techniques, we have three methods: net present value, benefit cost ratio, or we call it profitability index, and the third one is internal rate of return. So we have overall 5 methods on the basis of which we choose which project we should pick. So these two methods, payback period and accounting rate of return, these two methods do not consider time value of money, but these three methods, NPV, net present value, we call it NPV. Next is profitability index, PI, and the third is internal rate of return, IRR. In these three methods, we use time value of money concept. Okay, so how we use time value of money concept, we will understand when we will do these questions. First, let's start with payback period. These are called non-discounting techniques. So in nutshell, in very simple terms, layman language, non-discounting techniques are the techniques where we do not use time value of money. We do not try to understand, for example, if I receive 100 rupees, uh, if somebody says that I will give you 100 rupees after a year, so I want to know what would be the worth of 100 rupees after a year. So I can say that today's 90 rupees is equal to year after's 100 rupee. So whatever I could buy, so in very simple example, I just want to give a very simple example. Whatever I can buy in 90 rupees today, whatever I can buy in 90 rupees today, same thing I can buy after a year in rupees 100. Why? Because of inflation, right? So tomorrow's 100 rupees is today's 90 rupees, right? We can say like that. So moving forward here in these two methods, in payback period and accounting rate of return, we do not think that what would be the worth of money tomorrow, right? But in these three methods, we try to understand would be worth it. Would it be worth it to invest this much with the help of time value of money, that we will understand. So let us start first with payback period. So payback period, as I told you, that this is a non-discounting technique, right? So in case of non-discounting technique, we do not consider time value of money. We do not see the worth of money changing. We just apply simple formulas and try to understand whether there is profit, there is loss. That's it. We do not consider time value of money, that whether inflation, I would be able to match up with the that time inflation or not. We do not see that, right? So payback period, in as its name suggests, that payback period is the time in which you get your money back. For example, if you invest 10 lakh rupees in a business, so obviously you would want to know when this 10 lakh would be recovered. In simple words, we can say that when you will get your money back, what would be your break even point, right? So in how many years you will reach your break even point, that is called payback period, right? So let us do a question through which we will understand that how payback period is calculated. So one important thing here we need to understand, there are equal and unequal inflows. So equal inflow says that, for example, you have invested 10 lakh rupees and every year you will receive 2 lakh rupees, right? Investment, your outflow is 10 lakh and inflow every year you are getting of 5 lakh rupees, right? So it is very easy to understand, your payback period would be 5 years. Sorry, every year 5 lakh. So in 2 years you will get your money back, right? If every year you get 5 lakh rupees, your payback period would be 2 years. And similarly, if you get 2 lakh rupees every year, so your payback period would be 5 years, right? So this is equal inflows. But usually there are no equal inflows. We get different amount of money different years. So in that case, how we will calculate our payback period, that we will also understand. So let us first start with this question. So the situation is, a new machine purchased for rupees 50,000, right? It will also need a working capital of 10,000 at zero period. So the investment is 50,000 machine you have purchased, and you have also invested 10,000 rupees as working capital in zero period, right? So for example, for its installation or any other thing. The yearly profits before tax are expected to be rupees 12,000. So every year you are earning few profits. So the profit before tax is 12,000, right? So the machine has a life of 5 years and depreciation has been provided on straight line basis method. Tax is charged 50%, compute payback period, right? So now you can see here, we need two things. First, what is your outflow and what is your inflow? These two things we need to calculate. So first we will calculate outflow. So outflow, how much investment you have made, you can call it outflow or you can also call it initial investment. Okay. So you have bought this machinery for rupees 50,000 and 10,000 is also spent on It's installation or working capital, right? So total outflow or total investment is of rupees 50,000 plus 10,000. So the total investment is of 60,000, right? So 60,000 rupees are invested for this machinery. Now I want to know what would be my payback period. In how many years I will, you know, get my original investment back, right? Break even point basically. So for that, cash flows, these cash flows are given to you that every year you will be earning a profit of rupees 12,000, right? But there are expenses also. There you have to pay depreciation and you also have to pay taxes, right? These two things you have to pay every year. So what I have to do, I need to calculate my cash flow annually. So one thing we need to understand here is what is depreciation, right? So depreciation is not something you pay to somebody. Tax is something you have to pay every year to government, right? This is something actually going out of your hand. But depreciation is not something which you have to pay. We depreciate our machinery accordingly, but actually no hard cash is going out, right? So what we do here, we will calculate, you know, CFAT. We call it cash flow after tax. Cash flow after tax. This we need to calculate, right? So how do we calculate CFAT, or we call it cash flow after tax? So first is profit, whatever profit is given to you, right? So profit is the yearly profits before tax are expected to be 12,000. So the profits are 12,000, right? Then there is taxes. We need to reduce taxes minus tax. So tax is 50%. So whatever your profit is, we calculate tax on your profits. So 50% tax is there. So 50% of 12,000 is 6,000, right? So remaining is profit after tax. Profit after tax. So this is 6,000, right? Remaining. Now what I will do, I will add depreciation here. So why I am adding depreciation? Because depreciation is not something which you have, paid. Actually, we just show this depreciation in books, but actually no money is going out. So if you want to know the actual position of your, profitability, what we do, we add depreciation again in the profits, right? So how do we calculate depreciation? So here it is mentioned to you in the question that depreciation has been provided on straight line basis, right? So on straight line basis, we assume that the life of the, whether it is given, so the machine has a life of 5 years. So it means 50,000 machinery and 5 years life. It means yearly depreciation is 50,000 divided by 5 is 10,000, right? So I will just calculate depreciation here. Depreciation, cost of the machinery divided by life of the machinery, right? So this is 50,000 divided by 5. So depreciation is 10,000 rupees, right? So here depreciation is 10,000, which we are adding because, in this question, it is assumed that this profit is after depreciation, right? So this is profit after depreciation. Okay. Now, your cash flow, or you can also call it CFAT, cash flow after tax. So cash flow after tax means tax has been deducted, but depreciation is not. So here we will add depreciation. So after adding, we get inflow of 16,000. This 6,000 plus 10,000. So we get inflow of 16,000 here, right? So this is called CFAT. Now I need to calculate payback period. So for payback period, the formula in case of equal inflows. This is the formula for equal inflows. Where you get 16,000 every year, right? So your initial investment was 60,000, right? So your initial investment was 60,000. This here 50 plus 10, right? Initial investment was 60,000 and yearly you are getting a return of 16,000. So in how many years you will get your money back? 3 years and 9 months when you will divide it, okay? 3 years, 9 months. So one more important thing I just want to clear here. So in the question it was given that it was profit, after depreciation. So if it is not mentioned, then what we would have done? So here this 12,000, if it was not profit after depreciation, it was profit if it was profit before depreciation and tax. If it was profit before depreciation and tax, so we would have deducted depreciation also. So here it was 12,000. Then we would have deducted depreciation minus depreciation. So depreciation we have calculated how much? 10,000. So minus 10,000. We get profit before tax now. Profit before tax. So this is 2,000. Now tax is 50%. So 50% of 2,000 is 1,000. This is 1,000. Now we get profit after tax and depreciation. It becomes 1,000. So here the profit is 1,000, but again we will add depreciation because depreciation is not something which we give, right? So this is, now again we will add depreciation here. So depreciation is 10,000. Now CFAT is 1 plus 10,000, 11,000. So this is how we have calculated CFAT in second case, right? So now you will ask why first we have deducted depreciation and then calculated tax and then again added depreciation. This usually all the companies do this because when depreciation is a kind of expense, right? When you reduce expenses from your profit, your taxable income would be reduced, right? So now if I would not reduce depreciation from this 12,000, my taxable income would be 12,000 and I would have to pay tax of 6,000 rupees. But because I have shown this as my expenses, right? 10,000 is expenses, now taxable income is 2,000 and I have to pay tax only for rupees 1,000, right? So again when I have paid my tax, then again I can add depreciation amount because I want to know the true position of my project, right? So the next part of the question is we need to calculate payback period in case of unequal cash flows. So earlier it was equal cash flow. Every year we were earning 16,000 rupees, right? But it is not a very, practical thing, because it never happens that you get equal inflows in your project. Inflows are always unequal. So how do we calculate, payback period in case of unequal inflows? So here there are two types of expenses. First is initial investment. For example, in this present question, the investment is of rupees 10 lakh, right? And every year we do certain expenses for the maintenance and other charges are there. So those we call operating expenses, right? So operating expenses are, for first year it is 50,000, second year it is 20,000, third year it is again 20,000, then and so on. Every year it is 20,000, right? So now what I will do, I will see what is my return, right? So the first year the expenses are of 10 lakh 50,000, right? For second year it is 10 lakh 20,000, right? And again every year it is 10 lakh 20,000. Yes. So this 10 lakh is invested, but of course this is initial investment, but every year extra investment is 20,000. So you can write as total expenses also, or you can also write it as 20,000, 20,000, as convenient for you. That in second year we have invested only 20,000. That would be, if that is convenient, then we can use this. Okay. So this is our expense. These are our expenses every year. So for year 1 it is 10 lakh 50,000. For year 2 it is 20. Then 20, 20, 20. We can do that. Okay. Moving. Now we will calculate cumulative. Just a second. For first year it is 2 lakh. Second year is 2 lakh. This 2 lakh plus second year's income 4 lakh. So this becomes 6 lakh. Second year's cumulative revenue is 6 lakh. Then next year it is 12 lakh. Okay. Then 20. Then 20 plus 9 lakh is 29 lakh. So this is our cumulative revenue. Now I want to see what is my payback period. So for that, what will I do here is, see, for first year, till the end of first year, I have received 2 lakh rupees. By the end of second year, I have received 6 lakh rupees, right? And operating expenses we are not talking about. We are only talking about initial investment. These operating expenses are covered from here only. Okay. So the third year we have received 12 lakh. Okay. Now by the end of second year I have received 6 lakh, and by the end of third year I have received 12 lakh, and my investment is 10 lakh. It means 2 years I have to, minimum 2 years it will take to cover 10 lakh rupees, right? So payback period. So one thing more we will remember here is that when we are calculating payback period, we do not consider, here we are not considering operating expenses, okay? In first case, okay? So I'm not considering these operating expenses. I am just considering this initial investment, right? So these are my cumulative. So minimum 2 years it will take in any case. Now question is how much time it will take in third year. So for third year I need to reach my payback period, I have to cover more. How much more money? I need 4 lakhs more, so that I can reach my payback period. 4 lakh more is required. More is required if I want to reach break-even point, right? So 4 lakh more is required, but what I am earning here is 6 lakh, right? It means for reaching break-even point, I need only 4 lakh, but what I am earning is 6 lakh, right? So in 12 months, if I am earning 6 lakh rupees, how much time I will take to cover 4 lakh, right? So for this, what I will do here is 4 lakh divided by 6 lakh, right? So I need 4 lakh more, but what I am earning is 6 lakh. So basically what I am doing, I know I will recover 6 lakh rupees in 12 months. Then how much time I will take to cover 4 lakh rupees? So for this, what I will do, this 4 lakh divided by 6 lakh. So here I get 2 plus 0.66. So I can say 2.66 years, right? So approximately 2 years, and we can say, you know, these many months. And if you actually want to convert it into months also, so you can multiply it by 12, right? So otherwise you can write it like this is also 2.66 years. Okay, next is discounted payback period. We will skip this part for here because it will require you to understand discounting method. So we will do it, later on when we will cover that part. For now, we will start the next method, that is ARR. Okay. So the next method which we will consider is, which we will understand is accounting rate of return. ARR stands for accounting rate of return. Right. So, any other method is only developed when there is a drawback in the previous one. So, every method has some or the other limitation, some or the other problem, and to overcome that problem, we introduce another method, right? In finance, always this happens that there is some limitation of one method. To overcome that problem, we will introduce something else. So, the problem with payback period was that it will only help you to see that, for example, there would be two projects. So project A's, for example, payback period is 2.66 years, and project B's payback period is, for example, 4 years, right? So obviously, according to this, you will choose project A because it is taking less time to recover your money. But the major problem with the payback period is it only sees by when you will receive your money. It never considers what will happen once you receive your original investment. So it does not talk about the whole return of the project, right? How much time it will take to, how much return the project is going to give you. For example, if this project is having its payback periods in 2.6 years, but the overall return, maybe there are two projects, project A, payback period is 2.66 years, and overall return is, for example, 20%. ROI, you can call it. And there is project B, which will take 3.22 year to give you the returns, break-even point, to reach the break-even point, or we can call it payback period is 3.22 year. So if you only see payback period, obviously you will pick project A because it is taking less time. But this is not an appropriate way to pick a project, because the other criteria is return. How much return is there? For example, this project is giving you a return of, say for example, 40%. So what we are missing in payback period is we only consider the break-even point, the payback period, how soon you will get your investment back, but we do not consider the return part, right? This return. So to overcome this problem, we are going to study next method, that is called accounting rate of return. Okay. So this accounting rate of return method takes into consideration earning of the project over its whole life. How much the project give you in its whole life, right? So one more thing we have to understand here is, in this method we used to calculate CFAT, right? Here we have understood that we will calculate CFAT. So to calculate CFAT, what we used to do, 12,000 profit before depreciation and tax, we will minus depreciation, then we will deduct tax, and then again we will add depreciation. So we calculate CFAT, we call it CFAT, right? In all the methods other than ARR, we use CFAT, right? Inflows, for inflows we use CFAT, but ARR is the only method where we do not use CFAT but we use profits. Okay, so we will understand how do we calculate it. So here average investment is, the formula is average profit divided by average, just a second. Yes, so the formula for ARR is average profit divided by average investment into 100, right? Into 100. That's why we calculate in percentage form, right? So for average investment, how do we calculate average investment? The formula is initial investment plus scrap value divided by 2 plus additional working capital if there is any, right? And average income or average profit, this numerator, how do we calculate it? Profits, whatever profits are there, total divided by number of years. Like usually how we calculate average, total profit divided by number of years, right? So this is how we calculate. Okay, so when we talk about profit, we talk about inflows, whatever inflows you get minus depreciation minus tax. In CFAT, what we used to do, after this we used to add depreciation again. But in accounting rate of return, we do not add depreciation after this, because we are talking about accounting rate of return. So you know, accounting rate of return is something where we need to show this profit in our books. And in our books, in our accounting books, we cannot write that this depreciation can be added back. We always show it as expenses. So in books we cannot show that these expenses, the depreciation is again added, right? That is why we do not add depreciation here. So here we calculate profit inflows minus depreciation minus tax, that's it. But in rest of the methods like payback period and the other methods which we will discuss later on, in those methods we add depreciation again here. Okay, okay, so here we have our question. So we have two machineries, we have to pick which project we should choose, right? So we have two machineries. The initial cost for both the machineries is same, 56,125, 56,125, right? 56,125 for both the machineries. Here net income after depreciation and taxes. So this is already given to you, net income after depreciation and taxes. This is already given to you. In case it is not given to you, you have to apply this formula, right? For example, if it is giving you, if the inflows given to you are like before depreciation and tax, then you have to apply this formula, right? In present question, it is after depreciation and tax, it is already given to you like that, right? So inflows for 5 years is 3375, 5375, 7375, 9375 and 11375. And in case 2, it is 11375, 9375 and so on. This is given to you. So now what we have to do, we have to calculate ARR, right? So how I will calculate ARR? So as you can see in the question, I need two things. This is the formula, average profit divided by average investment into 100. Okay. So to calculate average profit, how I will calculate average profit here? Sum of these inflows divided by number of years, right? This is the formula I need to apply. So the formula for average income is this, profits divided by number of years, right? So here profit is So summation here 36875. 36875. Right? This is given to you. So average income, how we'll calculate? 36875 divided by number of years, 5. Right? This is 5. So average income is 7375. Right? This we have calculated. And for both the machineries, it would be same because the total is same. Right? Now the next thing is I need to calculate average investment. For average investment, this is our formula. Right? This is the formula for average investment. So initial investment, scrap value, nothing is given to you in the question. So we will only put the formula for the value of initial investment, that is 56125. 56125. There is no additional capital also. So everything would be 0 other than initial investment. So 56125 divided by 2 is 28,062.50. Right. So this is how we have calculated average investment. Now I will put the values into the formula. So this is the formula for average accounting rate of return. So average profit is 7375 divided by average investment is 28062. Into 100. So here ARR is 26.28. Right. So, here in this question for both the machineries, the ROI would remain 26.28 because the average income, total income is same, although it is reversed. As you can see in the question, in year 1 it was 3375 for machinery 2, for year 5 it is 3375. Then in year 2 it is 5375, here for year 4 it is 5375. But overall, return is same. 36875, 36875, right? And investment is also same, 56125, 56125. So here for both the machineries, ARR would remain same, that is 26.28. But how would we choose in such situation where the accounting rate of return is same? If something like this happens, what you will do, you will use another method to understand which techniques should be used, which method should be, which machine should be used, right? So here the another method which we can use here is payback period, right? If I want to choose between these two machines, and if one method is not sufficient to choose that which machine can be, which project can be selected, then we use another method. So here I can use payback period, right? Now for payback period, as I told you that in payback period what we do, we after this step, just a second. So what I told you that in payback period, what we do after this step, we add depreciation again. So inflows minus depreciation minus tax. Now we will add depreciation again, right? So if I want to calculate, if I want to know that which machine I should invest in, and I want to apply another method, that is payback period, then these inflows are not sufficient. This 3375, 5375 is not sufficient. I need to add depreciation in all these profits, right? Now I need to calculate depreciation. So how I will calculate depreciation? I will assume that if nothing is given to me, I will assume that it is as per straight line method, right? So for payback period, first thing I need to calculate is depreciation. And the method which I will be using is straight line method. If nothing is given to you, use straight line. So for straight line, the initial investment was of rupees 56,125, right? Divided by number of years inflows are given for 5 years, so it is 5. So 56,125 divided by 2, right? Sorry, 5. So this is our yearly depreciation. So yearly depreciation is 11,245. So this is your depreciation for every year, right? Now what I need to do, I need to add this depreciation in the profits, these profits, right? Just a second. So these are profits. Now because I want to calculate payback period, so I have to add depreciation into it, because till this point what is given to me, it is inflows minus depreciation minus tax. This is given to me, right? This is up to this part. Now I will add depreciation here. So depreciation I have calculated is 11,245. This is called depreciation, right? So this I will add in all the values. So this becomes 3375 plus 11,245. It becomes 14,620, right? Similarly, I will add 11,245 in all the values. So this becomes 16,620. Then again I will add, now I'm just adding, okay. So this is 18,620. Then next becomes 20,620. This is 22,620, right? So this is profit for machinery A. And we have made minor changes because I need to calculate payback period, right? Machinery A. Right? Now, similar thing I will do for machinery B also. I will add depreciation, that is of rupees 11,245. So this 11,375 plus 11,245, this becomes 22,620, 20,620, 18,620, 16,620, and this becomes 14,620, right? This we have calculated now. Now I can calculate payback period. So for payback period, what I will do now is I will calculate cumulative returns. So cumulative cash flows for A, machinery A, and then cumulative cash flow for machinery B also we will calculate. Done. So this is first is same 14. Fourteen six two zero, then 14,620 plus 16. So this is how we have calculated cumulative cash flows for both machinery A and B. Now we will calculate payback period for machinery A and B. Payback period for A. For A, now I need to recover how much amount? The amount initial investment was 56,125. This was the initial investment, right? So I need to see. So it means for machinery A, it will take minimum 3 years, right? Because here the amount is 49,860. So minimum 3 years it will take. Rest I need to see. So 56,125 minus how much I have recovered till third year is 49,860, right? So 6265 is remaining, right? I'll just write it here how I have calculated. This is 56,125. This is how much I have to recover. 56,125 minus 49,860 I have recovered till third year, right? So the remaining amount is 6265. This is how much I have to recover in year 4. But in year 4, how much I have recovered? This much, 2620, right? For fourth year. So if in whole year I can the company can recover 2620, so how much time it will take to recover 6265? So this 6265 divided by fourth year's income. Just a second. So this much time machinery A will take to get the initial investment back. Now similarly, we will apply the same formula for machinery B. Payback period. So for machinery B, you can see initial investment of 56,125. For year 3, it is 616,860. And for year 2, it is 43,240. It means minimum 2 years it will take, right? B. So 2 years minimum plus here 56,125 was the profit. So here 56,125 minus 43,240, it is 12,885. 12,885 divided by 18,620. Right. So the answer is 2 years and few months more, right? Two years, 2 point something, right? So now we have time period, payback period for both the projects. For project A, machinery A, it is 3.30 years, and for project B, machinery B, it is 2.691 years. So because the overall rate of return was 26.28 in both the cases, we could not choose one machinery, which machinery should be chosen. But with the help of payback period, we can pick machinery B because it is taking less time to recover and giving same return, right? So we are done with this non-discounting techniques. Now let's start with discounting techniques. So discounting techniques are a little bit, complex than non-discounting techniques, right? So let us understand discounting techniques very, very carefully and how we calculate it. So here, as I told you, that we use time value of money, right? So time value of money is, I need to understand if I will earn 100 rupees after a year, what would be the worth of that 100 rupees today, right? That I have to understand. So there are three methods: NPV, IRR, and profitability index. These three methods are there. So let us understand these methods one by one, right? So instead of telling you the whole formula, I will show you the procedure so that you can understand what is NPV. You know, I don't want you to remember the formulas. I want you to understand the concept, right? So let us start with the topic. Okay. So here two mutually exclusive projects are given to you, X and Y. So mutually exclusive projects, again, what is mutually exclusive project? Where acceptance of one means rejection of the other one. You can pick only one project at a time. Okay. So we have two projects in hand. Both the projects require similar amount of investment, 70,000, 70,000. And the cash flows are for both the projects. Life of the projects are also same, 5 years. And 10,000, 20, 30, 45, 60. And for project Y, it is 50, 40, 20, 10, 10. And the overall return is for both the projects 1,65,000 for project X and 1,30,000 for project Y. Now, if you don't use time value of money, if you don't use discounting techniques, simply you will pick project X, right? But when you choose discounting techniques, there is no guarantee that project X is more fruitful than project Y, because this 1,65,000's worth may not be same, right? So let's understand how we calculate it. So here compute first what is given to you, compute NPV at 10%. So let us start with NPV. So NPV is net present value. Okay. So net present value is present value of inflows minus present value of outflows, right? So when you will think a project is profitable when inflows are more than outflows, in any case, right? So when we think the project is profitable, when inflows are greater than outflows. But when we talk about NPV, right, we do not just see if the inflows are greater than outflows, we see that the present value of inflows should be greater than outflows. And present value of outflow and outflow is same, so you can just write it as outflow also, right? So present value of inflows minus present value of outflows. Before starting, I will just give you a very simple example. For example, you have invested rupees 100 today, right? And I tell you that after 1 year, I will give you 110 rupees instead of 100. So I will give you 10 rupees more, right? So now, if you do not use any discounting technique, if you do not see any present value method, right, you will clearly see that I will get 10 rupee more, then it's fine, it's okay, I'm getting some return. But when you use discounting technique, so you will see what is this value, what is the value of 110 rupees today. So if you discount it, right, so what you will do, you will discount this value, this 110 would be discounted. So for example, I reduce, discount means reducing, right? So I reduce this 110, say for example, I can pick any percentage. So say for example, in this question it is given 10%. But usually with what percentage we reduce this value? By the expected inflation rate. We reduce 110 by reduce the value of 110 by expected, because you don't know what would be inflation after 1 year. So that is why I'm writing expected inflation rate. So I will reduce this 110 by expected inflation rate. So for example, whatever inflation rate is, and I have discounted it. Now after discounting this 110 by the expected inflation rate, this value becomes 102. It means I'm not earning 10 rupees. What I'm earning? Only 2 rupees, right? So now I will think whether this is a good deal for me or not. I will be earning only 2 rupees this way, because inflation would be that much that it is not worth it, right? Or maybe it may happen that after 1 year, because of inflation, this 110's worth would be even less than 100, so maybe it is 99. So this is called present value of future inflow. It is 99. So I have invested, if I see in the light of present value concept, this 100 rupees which I am investing in this proposal, after 1 year its true worth is 99 rupees. So it is not a good idea. So this 99 minus 100, in fact I will be in a loss of rupees 1, right? So I will not invest. If it is, for example, 102, 103, then also I can think that I will be earning still in, true worth of the money. We are not talking about what, we compare retail prices with the base year prices. So similarly here also I will see the true worth of 110 rupees. So the true worth, or we can call it present value, if it is 99, then it is not worth it, because I will be at a loss of 1 rupee. And if it is 102, 103, then I will be earning 2 or 3 rupees profit, right? Then I may go for the investment, right? Now let us start. So here now I will calculate net present value for these two projects, X and Y. So for in outflows, I do not need to calculate its present value because it would remain same, but I need to calculate the present value of these future inflows. Like if I'll be getting 60,000 rupees after 5 years, what would be its present value? What is the worth of 60,000 rupees? So what is the 60,000 rupees for today, right? So in this question, this 10% is already given to you. But when we actually try to calculate in real life, now I will calculate the present value of all the future inflows. Okay. So what table I need to use here? The table which I will use here is present value table. Okay. To calculate, these values, what I am going to do is I am going to use this table, future value, present value table. So for this, I will be using present value. Okay. You have future inflows with you, right? 60,000, for example, whatever future inflows were given to you in the question. Now I will calculate, I will see the table and see the present value of these future inflows. So, for every year, the rate of the return, the interest rate, the discounting rate which was given to you was 10%, right? So for 10%, I will see what is the value. Okay. So there are two tables. The first one is future value interest factor. Future value interest factor table is used when you want to calculate the future value of any present income. For example, you have 100 rupees with you and you want to know if there is 10% return, what would be its future value? You will use future value interest factor table, right? And if there is a future value, right, it is already given to you, the future value is given to you, and you want to know what is its present value. For example, in the question it was given to you that 60,000 rupees you will earn after 5 years. So to earn 60,000 rupees after 5 years, how much you should invest today, right? So for that we will use present value interest factor, right? The table name is present value interest factor. Always remember, if you want to know the present value of any future value, you will use present value interest factor table, right? So 10% was the discounting rate. For year 1, it is 0. See here, for 10% and year 1, 0.909, for second year it is 0.826, third year 0.751, for fourth year it is 0.683, and for fifth year it is 0.620. So I have these 5 values, 10% for year 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the table which I am looking is present value interest factor table, right? So here I will write all the values into the table. So this is 0.909, then I have 0.826, then I have 0.751, then 0.683, then 0.621. These were the values, right? So all these values I will write here also for project Y also. Now I will calculate present value for all these values, okay? So 10,000 multiplied by 0.909, it becomes 9090. 20,000 multiplied by 0.826, it becomes 16520. Then 30,000 multiplied by 0.75, it is 22,530. Then again 45,000 multiplied by 0.683, it becomes 30,735. Then 60,000 multiplied by 0.621, it becomes 37,260, right? Now similarly, I will calculate, these are present values of inflows for X, project X, okay? Now similarly, I will calculate present value of inflows for Y. These values are same. I'm just deleting it from here. So now 50,000 multiplied by 0.909. So this becomes 45450. Then 40,000 multiplied by 0.826. This is 33040. Then 15,020. 6830. Then this is 6210. Right? What I have done here is I have multiplied these future inflows with present value factor. So that, what I have understood from here is that this 10,000 which I am going to get after 1 year, its true worth is 9090 less, right? This in second year I'm earning 20,000 rupees, but its present worth is, true worth is 16,520, right? So this is what I have calculated. Now what I'll do, I will calculate net present value. For net present value, this initial investment, we can write it as minus 70,000, right? And this is also minus 70,000 because this is outflow, right? So I will solve this part and this part. This is, outflow. This is inflow. This was the formula, present value of inflow minus outflow. So this is what I am doing here. I'm adding all the present values of inflows minus this outflow, this 70,000, right? So this becomes 46,135. And for project Y also, I am adding all the present value of future inflows minus outflows, this 70,000. So this comes to be 36,550, right? So here you can say the more profitable project is project X because its NPV is greater, right? But if you have seen the question, in question also it was 1,65,000 and it was 1,30,000, and in present value form also this is giving better return. So you can choose project X. This is a profitable project, right? So this is how we have calculated NPV. Now we will see profitability index. For profitability index, we don't have to do much. For profitability index, the formula is discounted cash inflows divided by cash outflow. The only difference in NPV and PI is here you used to subtract and you get an absolute value. See, here it was because here we had to choose between these two projects, so we choose the one with the greater value. But in case if it is negative, you will straightforwardly reject that project, right? So in case of profitability index, the only difference is instead of subtracting, you will divide it. So if the value is greater than 1, in case of PI, if the value PI is greater than 1, accept the project. And if it is less than 1, reject the project. Right? So nothing you have to do here for project X and Y. PI of project X is discounted cash inflows. So we need to do its summation. So here its summation is 1,16,135. 1,16,135 and outflow was 70,000. So here the value is 1.659. Right. And for PI, profitability index of project Y is inflow, the summation of this inflow from here to here. Okay, this is 106,550. 106,550 and this is 70,000. Right. So this is 522. Right. So here in both the projects, PI is greater than 1, but we will pick the one where the value is greater. So 1.659 is greater than 1.652. So we will pick project X. So IRR is one of the most crucial, most important concept, right? This is the most widely used project appraisal technique. And this method is overall very, very important, right? So let's understand. So what is IRR? IRR is the discounted rate where NPV is 0. So here, in previous question in NPV, this rate of return was already given to you in the question, like it was given to you 10%, right? But in IRR, you need to calculate this discounting rate, right? So IRR is the rate where NPV is 0. For example, 10%. For example, if at this 10%, this becomes 0, this difference becomes 0. So that is called IRR. Okay. For example, at 15% NPV becomes 0. So that is called IRR. Right. So IRR, then once we calculate IRR, we compare it with cost of capital. So K stands for cost of capital. Okay. K stands for cost of capital. So once we calculate IRR, we compare it with cost of capital. So your IRR should always be greater than your cost of capital. If your return is greater than cost of capital, you will accept the project. And if your return is less than cost of capital, then you reject the project. It means your cost is higher than your returns, right? Now, let us understand how we calculate IRR. So we will calculate IRR on same data set, on the same data set. So for this, first I will calculate IRR for project X, right? Let us understand. So this method is a bit lengthy. So initial investment is given to you 70,000 and inflows are given to you for 5 years, right? So here I need to find a value, a percentage, a discounting rate where NPV is 0. Now for this I will use interpolation. Okay, so interpolation is hit and trial method. I don't know at which percentage, at which discounting rate NPV will be 0. How would I know, right? For example, in this question only we calculated at 10%. It was not 0, there was a positive value. So we do not know that at what percentage NPV will become 0. So the technique we use here is called interpolation, or we call it hit and trial method. So for hit and trial also we need to do certain things. So the first thing we need to do, at we must have certain benchmark. So we need certain benchmark, and for that we need to calculate payback period. Okay, so how we will do that? Cumulative inflows so this is 10,000, 10 plus 20, 30,000, 30 plus 30, 60,000, 60 plus 45, 1,05,000. 1,05,000 plus 60 is 1,65,000. Right. So now I will calculate payback period here. So for payback period, how we calculate, because these are unequal cash flows, cash inflows. So my initial investment was 70,000. So minimum 3 years it will take, right? So 3 years plus, now I need to recover 10,000 only, right? Because initial investment was of rupees. Okay. So I need to recover 10,000. And what I have earned in fourth year, 45,000. It means in 12 months I have earned 45,000. So how many months it will take to recover 10,000? So this is how we will calculate. So this becomes 10,000 divided by 45,000, 0.22. So how much time? 3.22. Right? This is your payback period. Right? Now with this payback period, I will find the benchmark. From here I can choose my interpolation values, this hit and trial. Now what I will do here is, this is going to be a future payback, right? So I need to find this 3.22 in future value table. Like in earlier I have calculated this present value, right? This is present value at 10%. But now what I need to do, I need to find this 3.22 in future value, because return I will get in future, right? So now I will see where I can find 3.22 in future value interest table. Where I need to see this future value interest table. There I need to find where this 3.22 lies between. Okay. So here you can see this future value interest factor table. There are two tables, future value interest factor and future value annuity table. But we will see future value interest table here. Okay. In certain questions, you have to see future value annuity table also, when there is a lump sum return. But here we are getting return in installments. That's why we are using future value interest factor. But when you get, I mean, here annuity is when the return is equal, sorry, right? Interest factor you will use when the returns are different every year. That's why we are using FVIF table, right? So I need to see where is 3.22. Where does 3.22 lies? And my time period is 5 years, right? So this is 5. Now I will see 1%, 1.0510. No, 1.1.1.11. I hope it is visible to everybody. 1 point. These are all 1 point something, right? Let's move forward, forward, forward. Okay. See here. From 25 to 30, it is 3.051 and 3.712. So 3.22 can lie between 25 to 30%. I'll just zoom it a bit so that you can see. So for 5 years, this is 5-year, and 3.22 lies between 35 to 25 to 30%, right? So the two values which I can take is 25% and 30%. So here I will pick two values, two percentages, 25 to 30, okay? So I need to calculate present value at 25% and present value at 30%, okay? Present value at 30%, okay? Now I have seen future value interest factor table, but now I will find the present values at present value interest factor table, right? This 3.22 I found in future value interest table, right? But if now I want to calculate present value, so these 25% and 30% I need to see in present value tables, okay? So I need to find the values of these two in present value table, okay? So again, we'll see the table. We will see the present value table, right? Now I will see present value interest factor table. Earlier I saw future value table. For now present value table, I have to see for 25 to 30%, okay? So for 25 to 30%, here, this is table, which table? Present value interest factor table, because I need to find the present values of these values. So 25% and 30%, these values I will pick. For year 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Each year there would be different values. So 0.800, 0.640, 0.512, 0.409, 0.327, and for 30% it is 0.769, 0.591, 0.455, 0.650, and 0.269. These two values I will take, right? 25% 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 30% 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Here I am writing all the values for 25% present value table में से. So this is 0.800 for 25%, 0.640, 0.512, 0.410 and 0.328. Similarly, I will see the values for 30% also. For 30% it is 0.769. For second year it is 30% year 2, right? 0.592, 592. Then this is 0.455. Then for next year it is 0.350. And fifth year it is 0.269. Right? So I have written the present value factors here. Now I will multiply it with the returns, right? These values, inflows. Okay. Now present value of inflows at 25% And similarly, we will calculate present value of inflows at 30% also. So this is 30%. Okay. So what I'm going to do is this 10,000 multiplied by 0.800, right? So this becomes 8,000. Then this 20,000 multiplied by 0.640. This becomes 12,800, right? Then there is 30,000 multiplied by 0.512. This becomes 15,360, right? Then 45,000 multiplied by 0.410. This becomes 18,450. And then last one, 60,000 multiplied by 0.328. It becomes 19,680. Right? Now this is minus 70,000. This would remain same. Right? Similarly, again, I will find the present values at 30% also. For 30%, this is this 10,000 multiplied by 30% values, this 0.769, right? 10,000 multiplied by 0.769, it becomes 7690. Then 20,000 multiplied by 0.592, it becomes 11,840. 30,000 multiplied by 0.455, it is 13,650. Then 45,000 multiplied by 0.350, this is 15,750. 60,000 multiplied by 0.269, this is 16,140, right? Now, what we will do here, we will calculate NPV, okay? NPV. So for NPV, what we do, present value of all inflows minus outflow. This is what we do. So it means 8,000 plus 12,800 plus 15,360, 818,450, 19,680 minus 70,000, right? So here NPV is, right, inflows minus outflow, right? So this is plus 4290. And similarly, similar thing we will apply for 30% also. So this is minus 4930, right? This is how we have calculated NPV for lower limit and for upper limit. Lower limit was 25% and upper limit was 30%. Now, one important thing we need to always remember here, the NPV for the lower one, for 25%, lower one should always be positive. I'll just write it down here, right? So the NPV for lower value should always be positive, right? And NPV for upper value, upper limit we can call, upper limit, so NPV for upper limit should always be negative. In case it is not happening like this, right? This is coming negative, for example, then you will pick maybe 24%. Then again hit and trial, you will try. If at 24% also it is not coming positive, 23%, 22%, 21%, 18, 16, 17, how doesn't matter how much it take, right? So in case this upper value is not negative, then try instead of 30, try 32, try 33, try 34, right? That is why we call it hit and trial or interpolation, right? In case this upper, this, you know, this lower limit, this 25% is not positive, go for 24, 22, 21 and so on. And in case this 30% is not negative, go for 31, 32, 33, 34. So this should always be positive and this should always be negative. If it is not coming like that, then try, keep on trying. For here, for 25, keep on moving to 24, 23, and for 30, if it is not negative, move to upper side, right? Now, once you get a positive value for this lower limit and a negative value for this upper limit, you can move ahead. If it is not there, keep on trying with hit and trial, right? So now what I will do here, I will apply the formula for IRR, internal rate of return, right? So the formula is lower limit plus present value at lower limit, NPV at lower limit, NPV at lower limit divided by NPV at lower limit minus NPV at higher limit into H minus L. Okay, higher minus lower limit, right? So this is the formula for IRR. Now I will put values into this formula. Okay. Just a second. So NPV lower limit is 25. This percentage we have to write, okay? Lower limit is 25%. So here this is 25. Then NPV at lower limit is NPV at lower limit is 4290, right? This we have calculated 4290. Oh, here we have to write 4290. 4290 divided by NPV at lower limit minus NPV at higher limit, right? So this is 4290 minus NPV at higher limit is already negative. So this is minus 4930. Minus 4930. So this minus will become plus, right? So this H minus L, 25 minus 30 minus 25 is 5, right? So this is 25 plus this becomes 2.326. Okay, this. Once we'll solve this whole part, it comes 2.326. So this becomes 27.326%. So this is your IRR, right? So in this present question, we are not given cost of capital. If cost of capital would have been given to you, you would have compared it with this IRR. And if IRR is greater than, for example, if K is 20%, so IRR is greater than K, you would have selected the project. But in present question, we have to compare two projects. So for first project, it is IRR is 27.326. Similar procedure you will follow for project 2, project Y. The same procedure. First you will calculate payback period, then find the value in future value interest factor table, then find the present value of all the values. And in case these values do not match, then you will interpolate and compare which is giving a better return. Project X is giving better IRR or project Y is giving a better IRR, and choose the one which is having a greater value. So I'm skipping the IRR for project Y, that you can, I hope you can do at your own, right?